everybody. Happy New Year. Tonight we're going to talk about black-eyed peas and what we can use them for and the new ways we can make it besides just your, hold the camera up, yeah. Besides just your everyday run-of-the-mill canned black-eyed peas that you heat and eat. We're going to use canned black-eyed peas tonight, but you can buy dried black-eyed peas. There are directions on the bag as far as how to prepare them, but basically they have to be soaked. You can do a quick soak or an overnight soak, just like any dry bean, and then cooked for an hour or two on a slow simmer on the stove. And then you can season them however you like, just like the canned beans. You can also serve them hot or cold. All of our recipes tonight are going to be serving them cold. Canned, as you know, comes pre-cooked. The difference, one of the main differences, the dried beans are cheaper, but also if you buy canned beans of any sort, there's usually some sodium added. This one has 400 milligrams of sodium in it. So what I would recommend, now I do know Kroger makes a low salt or a no salt version of a lot of their beans, so do probably most grocery stores and brands now. So look for the low salt, no salt, especially if you are sodium conscious for health reasons. But that's another advantage to doing the dry beans, because you can add sodium or salt if you want to. So, but I am using canned beans tonight. Now I did rinse and drain and rinse all of the cans, so I tried to drain off as much of the sodium and rinse off as much of the sodium content as I could. However, we're going to move ahead. We're going to start tonight with our Texas caviar. Texas caviar is a salsa of sorts made with black-eyed peas. We have in here 1 can of black-eyed peas. We have some cilantro, chopped jalapeno. We also have some diced pepper. It called for just green pepper, but I had some different colors, so I did about a third a green pepper, a third of a red pepper, and a third of an orange pepper, just for color. You can use what you have. Leave the peppers out altogether if you like, but it makes for a pretty and a healthy little appetizer to serve. This is great for New Year's, great for your New Year's Eve celebration. And then there is also about a half cup diced red onion in there for color as well. And I made taco soup last night. You may or may not have seen that. And so I had a half a can of Fiesta corn. So I also popped that in there as well. So it's just full of lots of good veggies. And I'm going to add 1 diced tomato into that mix there. And then the last thing I'm going to add, just before we make the dressing here, is some mango. We love mango at our house. It is a healthy, wonderful fruit. It's a little tricky because it has a hard center, a core seed that's very hard sometimes for people to get around. So I thought I would show you. I'm going to use a smaller knife here. Some people like to peel it first, but I tried that the other day. We had something with mango and we peeled it first, and it was extremely slippery and hard to hold on to while we tried to slice it. So I decided tonight I would peel it after the fact, and it's working much, much better. So we're going to peel this mango real quick. Now you can use a vegetable peeler as well if you don't trust yourself to not slice your hand. This is the way my grandmother peeled everything when I was growing up, so I still have a hard time using a vegetable peeler. However, I did want to show you something. This is a Christmas present I got. I know this place is not a sponsor. It's called from Wise Life, but these are gloves that are supposed to protect your hands while you're cooking from getting cut. It says it's a level 5 cut protection. I have no idea what that means. But they are machine washable. It says do not dry them in the dryer, but you can machine wash them. And you simply can cut away and not have to worry so much about cutting your hand. And the reason I got them is we did sushi a couple years ago, and I asked to have all my knives sharpened before we did our sushi party so that we'd have some nice sharp knives to slice with. And it's funny because the knife sharpening company gives you Band-Aids with your newly sharpened knives, and I found out very quickly there was a reason why. Because those very sharp knives cut very deeply very quickly. So my family thought it would be kind of fun to give me some gloves to protect my hands, which I'm grateful for, although I have learned not to cut myself quite so much. But if you are a novice in the kitchen, or if you're accident prone like me, you get in a hurry, your fingers get in the way, these are a great idea because they are food safe, and you can, like I said, you can wash them after you've prepared your food. Only thing I would recommend is if you're going to cut up something spicy, to do it last, because I would say that these flavors are going to transfer if I'm using them for more than one thing. I'm sure I can wash my hands in them and try to wash them off a little bit, but I don't know how much of that soap would rinse off just under the sink and things like that. So just be mindful if you're going to use them for chopping more than one thing to kind of do them in an order that makes sense, where you don't transfer too many of the flavors that you don't want. Alright, so we're going to add that mango in. And the last thing that goes in is avocado. Now this is why I wanted these gloves, mostly. Excuse me. I read on the internet the other day that they've invented now an avocado called a cocktail avocado that has no pit. Because, and this is in the UK, because they have had so many emergency room visits from people who have had major cuts while trying to cut an avocado. So I'm going to show you how to get this pit out. This was one I had for lunch. I'm not going to use it tonight because it's gotten kind of brown and dry. Well, I will. I'll just slice it off. But I'm going to show you how you get the pit out. Now what's happening, I assume, that people are doing is they're holding it in their hand and trying to get that pit. And obviously, if I wasn't protected with my glove, I wouldn't even try that. But what you need to do is lay it on the counter and then just tap the pit with a really sharp knife, and then turn sideways, and it pulls right out. And then you toss that away, and then you can continue to slice or peel or whatever it is you want to do with your avocado. Now, what a lot of folks do is take a spoon, go around, just scoop it out. That simple. And then I'm going to attempt to slice off this dry part here, because this is just me and Nick tonight, so we don't need fancy avocado. Alright, so I got rid of the part that had oxidized a little bit, but you see that? I'm glad I didn't do my avocado first, because if I had, that would have been yucky on the mango. So we're going to dice this avocado, just nice little dice here, and toss it in. I'm going to do one more. Now, how do you know if your avocado's ripe? Some of you might have some ideas or some tricks that you use. Just let me know. But one of the ways is you pop off that little stem piece. These are both, I just took this one off, but and it should be sort of yellowish in color and not green. And that tells you that it's ripe. I always feel mine, and they need to feel very firm but not hard. They need to give a little bit but not be squishy. If they're squishy, they're obviously already probably black inside and not fit to, you're not going to get salvage enough avocado to make it worth paying for. Because avocados are not cheap. See how pretty that is? Just a beautiful little avocado that you can almost guarantee they're going to be good if you just look for that in the where the stem was, and if you feel and make sure that they're kind of firm and but not hard and not too soggy. All right, I'm going to take these gloves off and dice this other avocado real quick. You can make your chunks as big as you like. Toss that in. Alright, now we're going to make the dressing for this. This dressing is a cilantro lime vinaigrette. How's everybody doing? I hope you had a nice Christmas, by the way. Anybody there? Two? Yay. And I will post these recipes because I think I've told you all before, a lot of this, I don't make what I cook. I find recipes and I follow them, and I just find things that I like and I share them with you. So this was a recipe that I found, and I have here, this is a clove of garlic. And the recipe that I found on the internet called for a 1/3 cup of honey, but we are low carbing, so I have a 1/3 cup of monk fruit in here, and that's going to dissolve just fine in our acid here in a little bit. We want to add a teaspoon of fresh ginger root. This is ginger root, and it's a very ugly looking little plant. We just need a little bit, and you have to peel the ginger root, so you want to take off all the hard bark. We don't need much for a teaspoon. I'll probably even use that end. I'll use that as a handle. This little piece will make a nice handle. Oh, it smells so good. I encourage you to use fresh ginger when you can. Ginger root's very cheap. And you can buy a big chunk of it. It'll keep a long time. Just store it in the open like you would your potatoes. And it'll keep a good long time, but it's such a fresh taste and smell, and it just makes everything wonderful. My son makes homemade ginger beer, and when he used to make it here at home, it was just fabulous smelling while it was cooking. So I'm just using this little, this is used for zesting, but it's great for grinding up ginger too. You can, if you don't have one of these little devices, you do not need to have it. You can use a knife and simply dice it into very small, fine pieces. It doesn't have to be that fine. It depends on what you like, because if you have it in bigger chunks, when you take a bite of ginger, you're going to get a much stronger ginger taste if it's in chunks. So I like to have mine zested because it distributes the flavor throughout the dressing a lot better. All right, so we've got the ginger root. We need a 1/4 cup of lime juice. So I've got a couple limes already peeled here. And again, if you don't have a juicer, it's quite all right. You can squeeze it in your hand. Limes typically do not have seeds. The only thing is if you do it this way, you can't really measure. You can squeeze it into a measuring cup, I suppose, but you can also just, squeeze it with your hand. I like to get in there. If I don't have a juicer, I'll get in there and squeeze with my fingers and press really well so I get all that juice out. No point in wasting it. Give it one last squeeze on here. All right. I may add a little bit more lime juice to it at the end. Okay, and then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of balsamic vinegar. Oh, it got stuck. And you see how well I measure. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. There's a 1/2 teaspoon worth of taste. Again, and if you're on a low sodium diet, you can use salt substitutes perfectly fine, or no salt at all. Use a no salt substitute that has some flavoring in it similar to what we're using here. Some Mexican flavors. Stir that up a little bit so that monk fruit sweetener can start dissolving, because it's going to need some time. And then we need to add a little bit of olive oil. It says a 1/2 cup. Pretty good amount there. Again with the measuring. If you are a new cook and you are not used to putting things together and eyeballing about how much things take, measure. Always measure in the beginning until you're used to making the recipe and you kind of have a feel for what the consistency is supposed to be, what the flavors are supposed to be like. Always follow the recipe. Then tweak it the next time. Make it your own. Pretty good. Alright, we're going to let that sit for a minute, and I'm going to move on to the bacon dressing. We have, and we'll add this dressing to in just a minute and toss it in. I have here a spinach, some baby spinach that's been washed and dried, and an entire can of black-eyed peas that I rinsed, drained, rinsed, and dried. So I put that in there with the spinach. And now we're going to make a hot bacon dressing. I've got the bacon cooked. And once you've cooked your bacon, you want to strain it, because we need a little bit of this leftover bacon fat. So we're going to put this bacon into a strainer. And what I did, I took an entire pound of bacon and I held it sideways and used a pair of kitchen scissors and just cut it into little tiny pieces before I cooked it, so that it was already done already chopped and you don't have to cut it hot. Okay, so for the bacon dressing, once you've moved your bacon out of your pan, you want to cook it till it's nice and crispy, have small pieces. You want to heat that pan back up a little bit. I had it turned down so my bacon wouldn't burn while we were talking. And then to this skillet, you don't need to wipe it out, you don't need to do anything. We're going to add a half cup of onion. I'm using green onion because we don't like really spicy, and we're doing the salsa that has the spicy onion, so we decided to use the green onion. And we're going to do a little bit of salt. Won't need much because we have those bacon drippings in there too, so just a little. So that's going to start cooking down. We're just going to wilt it a little bit. And then I also have some 1 clove of garlic. And I already chopped that, but you can use minced garlic in a jar if you don't want to do that yourself. The reason I'm straining that bacon is because we're going to use a little bit of that bacon grease in the dressing itself too for the flavor instead of oil. So we're using some of that bacon grease at the end. That's why we strained it, but also to get the fat off the bacon to eat it in the salad. All right, this has to go about a minute. So why do we eat black-eyed peas for New Year's? I was reading up about that because we always had black-eyed peas and cabbage on New Year's, and I think corned beef or sometimes pork. And so what I found about the black-eyed peas and the greens is that you were supposed to eat greens on New Year's Day to have money in the new year, and you're supposed to eat the black-eyed peas. The greens represent bills and the black-eyed peas represent coins. So they're both good for supposedly blessing yourself with money in the new year, but you have to eat them on New Year's Day. We grew up eating cabbage on New Year's Day, and I like cabbage, but it gets kind of old. So that's why I picked this recipe, because all of the stories I could find on the internet about why we eat greens and black-eyed peas didn't really say that there was a specific green you had to eat. So a lot of, in the South, it's collard greens, but a lot of people don't like collard greens. It's a very strong taste, very strong green, and they have to be cooked properly. They can be very tough and chewy if they're not cooked properly. So the collard greens are good. If you like the collard greens, eat those. Cabbage is cheap, and it's pretty tasty, and you can season it up pretty well too. But again, we get kind of tired of cabbage, and honestly, cabbage kind of makes people gassy. And if you're home all day on New Year's Day, I don't know if you want that. So spinach is a good option. Full of iron, mild flavor. It's a good taste that most everybody can tolerate. So our onions are getting soft now. We're going to add a 1/4 cup of rice vinegar and 2/3 cup of apple cider vinegar. And it calls for 1/2 cup white sugar. This is a 1/2 cup, again, of monk fruit. It looks and cooks and measures exactly like sugar. And again, I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything, but if you're diabetic, or if you're watching calories, or if you're watching carbs, it's a great substitute. It tastes a lot like sugar. It doesn't have a lot of aftertaste like a lot of chemical sweeteners. It has a little bit of a buttery taste to it. Is the only thing I can tell you about. It does have some flavor that you can taste, but for the most part, butter goes in everything, so what's the problem? So anyway, the monk fruit is in, it's dissolving, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and we're going to use Sharita's measuring for that. Love Dijon. Didn't used to. It was not my favorite thing for a long time, that horseradish, whatever taste, that very strong, but now it has become a favorite. So we're going to cook all that together. We're going to add in a 1/3 cup of our bacon drippings. So I'm going to slide around here and get my bacon. And about a 1/3 cup. Save that other for making you some fried cabbage, or just toss it if you don't use bacon grease to cook. But for this particular recipe, instead of using vegetable oil or olive oil, it's going to add flavor. If you would prefer to use olive oil or vegetable oil, it's perfectly fine. If you don't want the extra, oh my goodness, I wish y'all could smell my nose opening up from that Dijon popping up into my face. It smells really good right now. And then we're going to kick it up a little bit more with a pinch of cayenne. That's cooking down nicely, and we're going to add, I've already mixed together, this is 1 teaspoon of cornstarch and 2 teaspoons of water. So I'm going to add that. This is just going to thicken our dressing without coloring it or causing it to become opaque. It's going to keep that pretty golden color, not make it lighten it or anything. And we're going to let that cook down just a little bit. You can already see it's thickening. We're going to let that go for just a minute here. And we're going to I'll let you slide back that way. Let that cook down, and we're going to add to our salad bowl here some sliced mushrooms and some sliced tomatoes. Cut up one more mushroom. What do I do with my knife? Got our sliced mushroom. Ready to add just a little more lemon juice to that. All right, people, we are getting ready to start eating here. Now, I have only seen, I'm going to put this on here and stir it. Now, this caviar will be better with time. If it is allowed to sit overnight in the refrigerator, it's going to taste even better. Obviously, if you're going to make this for New Year's Day or New Year's Eve party, just make it the night before, pop it in the fridge. I would leave the avocado and the mango off until right before serving, but the other savory ingredients, the peppers, onions, cilantro, all of that could be put in ahead of time, and your dressing. And then just leave your oxidizing fruits, your avocado and your mango, until the last. Okay? It smells really good too. Alright, we're going to get our bacon dressing off the stove. Lost my pot. Add the bacon back in. Woo! It's burning my nose. It's a little spicy. You can leave that cayenne out if you want to. If you're not a spicy person, leave it out. It's okay. Don't cheat yourself on the Dijon though. Alright. Hot bacon dressing goes right over. And we're going to toss this bad boy.
cameraman was attacked by the puppy.
The dog is restless. She doesn't know what we're doing, and she's freaking out.
Those last little camera moments were because the puppy attacked.
Puppy attack. Those will occur frequently around here. Okay, now, so we're going to grab a nice little bit of all that goodness. Get some mushrooms on here. That hot bacon kind of
So wilted.
wilts the spinach, and also I slice those mushrooms nice and thin, so it even kind of par cooks them a little bit too. Although you can eat mushrooms raw, there's nothing wrong with that. Mushrooms, and they're a good salad filler. A little tomato. Let's pop that over. Okay. So we've got those two things. Oh, and I wanted to tell you about my little box. I'm going to put some of this in here, and we'll put it in the box to take a picture here in a second. But I got this, I don't even know what it's called really. I'm calling it a picture box because I'm ignorant. But this box is made for taking photos of your food. It comes with a light, have a little hole in the top. I can put my camera up here and take a picture directly down from above. I also have different colored backgrounds. I have red, green, and black backgrounds. So I can change the background depending on what my plate is. And I've posted a couple of pictures that I've taken with it in the last couple of days, and I think they've turned out really well. I've been very, very pleased, and it just makes me look like I know what I'm doing, and I don't, and I think it's fabulous. So my family is very supportive of me working on this page. I'm trying to get up to speed as fast as I can, but I'm completely new to all of this Facebooking, videoing, taking picture stuff. So it's taking me a little while. Now we're going to make one more thing here real quick. This won't take but just a minute, but my daughter had the thought that we should make hummus out of black-eyed peas. She said, who's ever done that? And I looked on the internet. I found no hummus recipes for black-eyed peas, but there's a lot of hummus recipes for all kinds of other beans. So I assume black-eyed peas will make hummus just as well as any other bean. So I'm rinsing and draining those really well. I'll put these right into the food processor. And I went to the store to get, normally hummus has tahini paste, which is a sesame seed paste that you can buy at the grocery store, and some olive oil and some seasonings. But when I went to the store last night to get the tahini paste and think about seasonings, I found this. Now, again, not a sponsor. I have no sponsors. But this is Bush's new thing called Easy Hummus Made Easy. And so I thought we will give this a try. You and I together. I have no idea if it's any good, but we're going to try it because it's just a pouch that's already got tahini and spices in it. Now, of course, because it is manufactured and pre-made, it has preservatives and probably, let's see how much sodium. 115 milligrams of sodium, so not too bad on the sodium part. But you can do it at home. You can buy plain tahini paste, which is just ground up sesame seeds, and add your own spices however you like. Now I am going to add a little bit of pepper. And hummus can be as fine or as chunky as you like it. It's strictly preference. Most of the store-bought hummus is very, very fine. But I'm not gonna belabor this grinding and chopping and making noise for too long. So, I'm going to put our hummus right here on this lovely blue bowl. And that is all that you have to do if you use this little pouch. And we're going to taste it for you here in a second. We will give you our honest opinion. We like hummus. We eat a lot of it. Not much anymore because it's carbs. And so we don't do a lot of the carb stuff, but we used to eat quite a bit of hummus. Garlic, red pepper, black bean, you name it. I'm going to put a little bit of smoked paprika right here on this bad boy, because smoked paprika is a gift from the gods. and it should be on everything. That's according to my daughter. But I agree. And I have blue corn tortilla chips, which we all know tortilla chips go great. So do pita chips. But I bought some of these lovely potato chips. They are made with sweet potatoes, blue potatoes, and regular white potatoes. I just thought they were adorable, and I wanted to use them for my picture. So we're going to put those around. You want to try one, sweetie? He says he's scared. I'll give you one. And I'll try one too.
That's good.
It's really good. You can add, I was going to add some roasted red pepper, I just didn't have time. But you can add some things to it. It is not bad. And that was, you saw how fast that was. You can make your own hummus in about 2 minutes for any party you wanted to have anytime. So, but I'm sure you could do it with tahini and homemade too. That's all I have for tonight. I'm going to take a few fancy pictures and eat my salad before it gets completely wilted. Enjoy. Have a happy new year in case I don't see you before then. And I appreciate everyone liking, sharing, following, just to help my page grow. We've got more good things coming in 2018.